it's Shane Conto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland Retrospective here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network. And this is a very special episode as we have done one full year. This is episode 53. So, for the whole entire last year, every week, you've been listening to me come on here and talk about one film that my guest picked and one film I picked related in some shape or form. And for this special 1 year anniversary episode, we're taking things back to the 1940s and hanging out with some Cary Grant. And I'm going to be talking about Arsenic and Old Lace and His Girl Friday. And I don't think anybody would be as good of a pick for my guest for this special episode as my wife, Jess. Thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome. Happy 1 year anniversary to this.
To this show specifically. We will be celebrating our 3-year wedding anniversary in about 3 months.
No, it was yesterday.
So, but not like Arsenic and Old Lace, which was definitely not yesterday.
No, that was very, very old.
We are turning things back to 1944.
Makes me feel young.
Mortimer Brewster, a Brooklyn writer of books on the futility of marriage, risks his reputation after he decides to tie the knot. Things grow complicated when he learns his beloved maiden aunts, Abby and Martha, are serial killers.
Honestly, good for them.
Crazy things happen in Brooklyn. And this screwball comedy farce is directed by legendary filmmaker Frank Capra, starring Cary Grant, Priscilla Lane, Raymond Massey, Jack Carson, Peter Lorre, and a bunch of other familiar faces. Josephine Hull and Jean Adair are the Abby and Martha Brewsters. But Jess, what are your general thoughts on this wild, madcap, dark comedy?
Yeah, that about sums it up. I think it's silly. It's pretty dark. I mean, it's based on a real case that wasn't funny because it was real.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember that lady's name off the top of my head, but she did take in elderly male boarders who didn't have any family and took out life insurance policies and then killed them with arsenic. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Don't quote me on that. But it's funny. There is a lot going on. Like, it's not just the old ladies killing.
No,
men.
because you have Mortimer's brother who comes back, who also is a serial killer.
Oops, all serial killers.
And then gets offended when it seems like his aunts might have actually killed more people than he has. And then you have the police officer, the new policeman walking the beat.
He's so desperate to have his musical be appreciated.
Yes, because he is a playwright. Everybody's a playwright when they meet Mortimer Brewster, because he is a theater critic. On top of writing books about the futility of marriage, he also is a theater critic.
I miss that futility of marriage detail there. Again, there's a lot going on all the time.
Well, because the opening sequence,
police are in, police are out.
Two men are dropping exposition like it's nobody's business. And is that Mortimer Brewster? Is he getting married? It can't be, because he writes books about how feudal marriages. And
I've seen this, it's intolerable.
and I had such a realization watching this film and just coming to grips with the fact that, like, George Clooney really is our Cary Grant, because they're like suave leading men, but also complete madmen if they just let them cut loose. Because, like, Cary Grant in this is unhinged.
Oh yeah,
he is manic to a T, and also a terrible husband.
He puts up with a lot too. It's like, oh, my two elderly aunts are killing people. Better just continue on with my day then.
It's like, what are you talking about? You can't possibly have 12 bodies in the cellar.
Let me try to get my insane brother out of here first, instead of, I don't know, calling the police.
Yes, because he also has his brother who believes himself to be Teddy Roosevelt. John Alexander really commits to that. And charge!
Is he the best adjusted one in the movie? I would contend yes.
Who, Teddy Roosevelt?
Except for maybe the bride neighbor lady, who I would simply not marry him after this, Shane.
They are married. Maybe I
would simply divorce him or get it annulled.
I think it's within a period of time where they could get an annulment.
I mean, she's a real one because she saw the bodies and just he was like, "Shh, baby, shh," and she kind of did. She was like, "Okay then."
And it's like she kept trying to be like, something bad's happening. Like, shush, honey, don't bother me. I'm doing real man
He
stuff
just
over
shoves her
here.
out the door. He's like, "Go back next door."
And like they have a bad relationship and they
Mhm.
really shouldn't stay married. But that's only one of the threads in this
Justice for
crazy, wild
what was her name?
Elaine Harper,
Justice for Elaine.
Justice for Elaine. Like Cary Grant is so much fun in this. The two little old ladies
Just don't think too hard.
are so committed and
They're
charming to like
unapologetic,
unapologetic and unfazed by the fact that they
moisturized.
are serial killers. Um, Raymond Massey, who plays the creepy brother, is just so eerie and unnerving.
He is not moisturized, out of his lane, bother.
Yep, and then you have Peter Peter Lorre, who's his little German friend,
Dr. Einstein,
Dr. Einstein for sure.
plastic surgeon, I guess.
The incredible writing in this in terms of just how everything pieces together bouncing around like crazy because it all threads together in unexpected ways and it's so snappy paced and like one thing will be happening and somebody is coming in unexpectedly and gets looped into that thing and then a thing and 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 it just has just this great pitter patter of pace to it and this movie's 2 hours long so like this isn't even like this quick 90-minute romp
No,
it's
well,
like
there's a lot happening.
yes the film tackles a lot of things and murders a lot of people
Yeah, there's a
a
pretty high body count in this.
lot of people die and
And like nobody cares really. I mean, he cares. Mortimer cares, but like the old ladies don't really care.
basically like his whole entire family gets put away into the asylum by the end because
Oh yeah,
like
they voluntarily commit themselves.
well and that whole entire sequence hilarious where like Mortimer has to convince them to put his aunts away and then the one is like just them looking at him like he should also be going
Well, it becomes a catch-22 too, because it's like, oh well, if you know you're insane, you're not insane. So really insane people we got to put away.
and just like the facial expressions Cary Grant has as he's like
His
nudging
eyebrows are
like
putting in work.
they sure were. And it's just like, you know what you have to do. And it's just his facial expressions. And that's where like the George Clooney aspect pop into my head. Cause like
Yeah,
you watch George Clooney in literally any Coen Brothers movie,
strong eyebrows,
whether it's Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, Intolerable Cruelty, or Burn After Reading, he just
powerful eyebrows.
we're in a tight spot. That's basically Cary Grant's whole entire energy. This whole entire movie is like, we're in a tight spot.
Well, they do a lot of madcap stuff too,
hmm Well, because
influenced by this.
well, exactly because the Coen Brothers are huge screwball comedy fans. Whether it's Frank Capra, it's we'll talk about it in a minute, Howard Hawks, and just that feeling of like this is the director of It's a Wonderful Life, going really dark.
Yeah,
Which also, to be fair, It's a Wonderful Life is very dark too. Like this guy wants to kill himself.
yeah, that was
Um,
watching that for the first time because people were like, "Oh, it's such a great Christmas movie." I watched it and was like, "What the
and then
hell
you're
are we
watching him like,
recommending?"
and it's just like, how did
I didn't want to be more depressed.
I think it really captures, and I try to push this point a lot talking about comedies from back then. Like they're unabashedly bonkers in terms of concepts and setups.
They're pretty unhinged.
Because like a lot of comedies today just feel really boring in terms of just like it's the same old rom-com setups and crap.
Mm.
And like they have a renaissance man of a man who writes books on the futility of marriage who also happens to be a theater critic who is getting married and then finds out that his aunts who raised him are serial killers to also find out that his brother's a serial killer and then they get in a competition on who can serial kill better and his one brother thinks he's Teddy Roosevelt and then he has at least two people try to pitch like theater scripts to
It's
him.
not a high concept.
Like, there's a lot to explain here, and it's just a complete madness.
Well, maybe he mastered all those things too, because he's a little bit older. I mean, his wife is pretty young, and he had time to be
Yep.
accomplished as a playwright and writer, or not playwright, critic.
Well, and with this film, like this is based on a play. So, and like you can tell because it very rarely leaves this home,
Hmm.
but the home is so perfectly quote unquote cast.
Yeah.
Like the production design in this, like they just found the perfect
Oh, it's
place,
Victorian.
just the perfect place to play all these shenanigans with like the window,
The window seat.
the window seat, and the
I
steps
love that.
upstairs and the cellar, and
The creepy unlit cellar.
like the different doors into the kitchen and all of these
Hmm.
things. Like I felt like I was watching like Full House in terms of like honestly,
Everything in one
well,
shot.
no, really the living room is actually kind of set up in the same similar kind of way as the house in
It's
Full House.
Victorian too, isn't it? Didn't they live
I
in a
don't know.
Victorian in San Francisco?
Well, it was San Francisco. I don't know much in I don't know enough about architecture to tell you if it was a Victorian or not. But it basically had the same exact kind
I
of
feel like
setup,
it
except
was.
it was mirrored. So like
Mm-hmm.
the steps were on the left hand side in Full House. This was on the right hand side. So was the door on the opposite end, but it had the two doors into like the kitchen area.
Yeah,
And like
the dining room.
it just has that kind of setup where it's just like they really make the most of the space. Frank Capra keeps up at this energy for a whole hour and 58 minutes, which is wild.
Yeah,
It's like the Fury Road of comedy.
when I read that they gave amphetamines to soldiers in World War II, and then watching this, I'm like, yeah, no, that checks out.
They probably gave
Seems right.
amphetamines to actors um
Cocaine might have still been
during World
legal.
War
Oh, I'm
II.
sure they did in that like theater, the movie system and everything that they had going on in Hollywood. I'm sure it was just
Well, 20 years before this,
rained in
it
drugs.
was complete hedonism.
And this was before HUAC too, wasn't it? I don't remember when
Yes.
who.
Well, because that was during the rise of the Red Scare after World War
Yeah.
II. This is at the tail, like we're in WW2 at this point when this movie came out in
Yeah.
44.
So no wonder they wanted a distraction.
But this is a wild, funny, well acted, dark, good time that just is absolute mayhem and also has a beautiful plum Criterion Collection case, and I love it.
Yes, it does. It's great. We don't get to see the colors in that movie, but I bet
Hmm.
that they talk about elderberry wine. We'll assume that the color was in there somewhere.
Now, do you have any other thoughts on Arsenic and Old Lace?
No,
Well, let's talk about His Girl Friday.
more mid-Atlantic accents.
Directed by Howard Hawks, starring Cary Grant, Rosalind Russell, Ralph Bellamy, and a whole bunch of other people.
A bunch of yelling dudes.
And this movie is a nice, tight 92 minutes. And that was because you had to get it done quick, so everybody had to talk real fast.
There's no downtime
No,
at all.
this film, a newspaper editor uses every trick in the book to keep his ace reporter ex-wife from quitting and remarrying, using an exclusive interview with a death row convict as his voting enticement to buy himself some time to win her back. Because Cary Grant's character,
Here's another
Walter
guy that
Burns, is a piece of shit.
another man that should have never been married.
Well,
He admits that,
and he gets
but then he
gets her
doesn't.
back again.
He unadmits it. Yeah, that other guy I thought was a stand-up dude. I felt bad for him.
Oh, Ralph Bellamy's Bruce Baldwin.
He's gonna find another nice young woman.
Well, and Hildy Johnson, it turns out Rosalind Russell really did just care about the news.
Hildy.
Hildy.
They say it like 500 times in this movie. You'll never forget her name.
I didn't forget it during the front page either. When
Eleanor
Jack
Hildy.
Lemmon, because this is based off of the film The Front Page,
Okay.
which is also the play The Front Page,
Ah,
which there is a version of this movie that came out before this that was much more British and less fast talky. And
less
then
funny.
we watched the 70s version of The Front Page from director Billy Wilder, starring Walter Matthau and
What?
Jack
The
Lemmon.
network?
No,
Glengarry Glen
The
Ross.
Front Page.
Oh,
which had Jack Lemmon as
You
Hildy,
you can tell that I
and
really remember
it
this.
was a bromance instead of a relate like a.
Fellas.
So it was Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon, who like Hildy's gonna leave and get married to this woman, and
I'd
Walter
remember
Matthau's like, I can't lose my best writer.
I'd remember if they kissed, that's all I'm gonna say.
They didn't.
That's why I don't remember it.
There you go. That was my first ever The Wasteland review request. Was the front page, and I could almost guarantee you it was Patrice.
We watch a
Um,
lot of movies. Can't remember them all, Shane. I'm
we
sorry.
do watch a lot of movies. But back to His Girl Friday, which hopefully you remember because we're talking about
Yeah, I
this.
do. Well,
So
we watched
Jess,
it like when did you say August?
we just watched this a week ago.
No, I mean before that. I feel like we had just watched it before that.
This was also one of my review requests. So this was sometime back in the summer. But Jess, what are your general thoughts on His Girl Friday?
Same as Arsenic and Old Lace, Shane. It's a little bit of a screwball comedy. I do think it's messed up that the not girlfriend of the convicted condemned man jumps out the window and their only reaction is like, oh, she's dead. No, she's not, her legs moving a little bit, and they just move on.
That this movie's unhinged.
Like people just
Like
jump out of windows all the time around these
one,
dudes.
Cary Grant is a complete piece of shit, predatory boss who just wants his ex-wife back. And I don't even think it's because he loves her. I think it's because he doesn't want to lose her
Yeah, I think he can't
as a
kill her.
writer. And then
She is talented. I mean, the little bit we hear, I enjoyed that.
Hildy's future mother-in-law gets arrested. Her future husband gets arrested multiple times.
Bruce didn't deserve it, but the mother-in-law was awful. Maybe that's why
Yep.
Bruce was still single.
And then you had, yes, the girlfriend of the man on death row who shouldn't actually be on death row, but then the government,
Oh yeah,
like
the
the
governor
tries
issues
to
a
hide it,
pardon. Yeah, but
and then the mayor tries to hide it.
it's a better look for the mayor to be tough on crime.
It's a conspiracy. But that's the girlfriend for a distraction yeets herself out the window, and
She lives.
she lives. And then there's guns, there's blasting, and all kinds of different stuff
People are
going
just
on
constantly
here.
coming in and out,
Which this is also based off of a
except for
play.
Hildy.
So like most of this film takes place in the press room at the courthouse, and whether it's there or at the actual paper.
It opens with a satirical bit about the time-honored tradition, or some people say that like the press isn't honorable anymore. They're just after a good story. I was like, interesting. That's could have aged worse.
This isn't timely after 85 years.
That could have aged worse. Yeah.
85 years later. But no, Cary Grant is such a bastard, but a charming one at that.
He knows who
And
he is, and he's not sorry for it.
no,
Can
that
really
is
respect that.
that is one thing Walter Burns is not sorry. He's never been and never will be
No,
sorry.
never in his life.
Never in his life.
He has done nothing wrong.
And like these are the kinds of movies where it's just like if it weren't Cary Grant, this is the kind of thing where it's like you never like if you had somebody like a character actor playing
John
this,
Wayne.
it's just like they'd be so hated like immediately, and like there's no way he would get his ex-wife back, but
You
because
need
it's
to
Cary
live more.
Grant, he has, as the kids say, the Riz.
Yep.
Yep. And then you have Rosalind Russell, who's extremely charming,
Dude, she's got a
fast
great
talking.
outfit.
Yes.
Love the lines.
Hmm. And Hildy is not just some doe-eyed woman
No,
trying to
she's
get Lord.
smart,
She's sharp as a whip and
resourceful.
resourceful.
House Slytherin.
House Slytherin. And she certainly loves what she does.
Mhm.
And it becomes very apparent
And
that
she's great at it.
she's trying to force this bland life upon herself.
Yeah, you can tell she definitely wants kids, because she definitely didn't look dead inside when she talked about it.
Dead inside. And then Ralph Bellamy, years before Trading Places,
Yeah, Shane need
approximately
to point that out.
48 years
He's not
before.
an old man. He wasn't always
Yep.
an old man. Who would have thought?
And like he's charming, but like and here's the thing. Walter Burns finds the worst in men in particular and pushes their buttons to bring out the worst in them. Cause like Bruce has some not great moments too, where he shows some of his lesser like positive tendencies,
Mhm.
and you just feel bad for him because he's just being baited into
Well, he
all of
clearly
this.
doesn't wanna act that way. I mean,
No,
he resists for a long
yep.
time.
And then you have all the conspiracy going on with like the sheriff and all that
Yeah.
nonsense. Because, like, this is all about a quote unquote murderer who's supposed to be going on to death row
Yep.
and
He's
getting
supposed to get
hanged.
hanged that day.
But he's not actually a murderer and he shouldn't be hanged. And it's just like, oh no.
They just found this poor neurotic scapegoat.
And then you have all of these other press players that are in the press
All
room.
kind of the same, just maybe not as fast as Cary Grant.
Like all of the character actors that they throw in here to play all of them have like this chemistry, that this
It's a boys' club.
sharp-witted alchemy, and then Hildy coming in and being like, oh, all right, I thought you were leaving, and like that whole entire dynamic.
They respect her though.
Yes. And because I think in many ways, like, she's quote unquote written like a man,
Mhm.
in terms of, and
Yeah.
which is interesting why, you know she wasn't just written to be some damsel and some woman who wants to get married. Like,
Early feminist icon, perhaps.
yes, who was soon replaced by a man in a future adaptation of
You too can be
this
respected
play.
by men in the 40s if you're useful to their business.
Well, and that's the thing. Hildy is really good at what she does,
Yeah.
and she's like mad typing away at
Yeah,
that typewriter.
she gets the guy to talk to her too.
Yep.
Convict
Hmm.
guy, the condemned.
And what's sad is like that moment where Ralph Bellamy's character Bruce really realizes that she's not
Mm-mm.
she's not really about it. And like he sees it because she becomes completely disassociated with him when she's in the zone,
Mm-hmm.
and like you can tell the story means more than anything. And that's like a sad moment where Bruce is like, yeah, this probably,
I respect him for that though. He could have.
yes.
I mean, it was the 40s, so like you had to choose between your job and motherhood. That's it. Those are your choices. You can't do both. Like he could have hypothetically dragged her out of there to like
Mhm.
a laugh track, but he doesn't. He's like, okay, I can never compete with this guy.
I'm gonna take you out of here and make you
Yeah,
into a good wife.
he didn't John Wayne her, which perhaps is his best quality.
Yes, he could have easily John Wayne her.
Bruce, early feminist icon, perhaps.
Wow.
He respects your choice.
But no, it's one of those kinds of things where this film is sharp, it's funny. It has a lot of like the whole roll top desk gag.
Yeah, they keep him in there like that
Mhm.
desk is bleeding.
Yep. And it takes some dark turns. It has a lot going
Yeah, there's a
on.
guy's life at the middle of this.
Yeah, like,
And they're all fucking around for a story.
yep. And just like the press. Right, right,
Yeah.
right,
They would have
right.
loved Cary Grant's character would have loved the 24/7 news cycle.
Oh my god. Him and Hildy
He
would
would have
just would live at.
he would have got in on the bottom of Fox News with the murders.
There you go.
He would have owned CNN.
He would have been Roger Ailes. Um,
Oh no. No, he doesn't seem very sexually predatory. He just seems like he wants a good story, that's it. He's
and he wants
lawful
his
evil.
reporter.
He's
He
lawful evil.
he'll not give up his best reporter to marriage.
No.
Hildy's too good. But this film is like Howard Hawks just has a great energy. This is sharply directed. It's funny, it's engaging. It's a lot of fun watching old comedies like this
Yeah.
because honestly, I have a lot better time with a lot of them than
The stakes
most comedies
the
today.
stakes aren't terribly high. I mean, it's not like the world's ending or whatever. I mean, yeah, people might die, but I feel like the stakes in these are pretty low in terms of viewing from 2025.
It's like nobody got hurt. Somebody died. It's like, well, I think they died quickly, so like they weren't hurt. So like that, I feel like that's what the comments like.
What do they
It's
say?
like
Tragedy plus time equals comedy.
that's, I guess that's Arsenic and Old Lace and His
Yep.
Girl Friday in a nutshell. But Jess, do you have any other thoughts on His Girl Friday?
Nope.
Well, that is a wrap here on another episode of the Wasteland Retrospective here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network. And I just want to thank all of you who have been consistently listening to the show since its inception a year ago. And there's no signs of stopping because there's endless films for us to pair up together.
Wow.
And specifically, I can tell you right now,
Shane always has a pair. He never hesitates.
And for next episode, I'll be talking to Mike, our fearless leader, about a double dose of Ron Howard action films, Backdraft and Apollo 13. And Jess and I will be talking about The Guest and You're Next on our next episode at the beginning of April.
I'm starting to pick movies that I kind of want to watch again, and I just wait and save them for when Shane asks me.
There you go. We are prepared, and hopefully all of you are, as we continue this wonderful journey of the Wasteland Retrospective. But
that is a threat.
It's a promise. But thanks for listening. Like, comment, and share on this episode. What are some of your favorite old screwball comedies? Are you a big fan of Cary Grant, or who are some of your old school leading men of Hollywood that you enjoy to go and check out some of their films? Is it Humphrey Bogart? Is it Clark Gable? I don't know. You tell me. But make sure to go follow or subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast. The SPM Crew Podcasting Network is ever expanding. We're always looking for new guests for our shows. And if you have any interest in starting your own podcast and want to join the crew, make sure to reach out. And if you like our logo, check out High Flyer Creative for all of your digital marketing needs. But most importantly, thank you as always for tuning in and supporting the Wasteland Retrospective here on the SPDM Crew Podcasting Network.